How's it going, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well. This is part 2 of my 3-part series, and for this part, we're going to be a little more serious. So I ask that you guys be a little mature about this part, and if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns about anything I talk about in this part, comment section is open, but if you want to talk to me more directly, my DMs are open on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can also contact me at griff88fan@gmail.com. So, with that being said, let's jump right into it. So to start things off, we are in late 2016. I finished my Dale Earnhardt series, lots of feedback, lots of responses, and I could not have been more creatively happy. I was in a creatively optimistic place, if you will. Yeah, there was definitely a lot, and one thought I had was, could I possibly make a living off of YouTube? Could I make enough content and could I get enough support so that I could do this for a living? Well, with that in mind, I went ahead and started throwing out a bunch of different shows, like, for example, Griffdawg, which is like what we have now, the diecast of the week. And then on Enter 2003, I did some more shorts, but then I did the 10 Winners Challenge, which was a blast and a half, and eventually One More Spark. So let's go ahead and let's jump into One More Spark a little bit here. If you guys didn't know, One More Spark was originally going to be what if Adam Petty was still alive? And I thought I was going to go about the same way as I would with the Dale Earnhardt series. But I realized there's a lot of connections between Adam Petty's series and Dale Earnhardt's series, and it almost would have been the same thing. So I thought a little more broader, a little more wider. Like, what if I went with like Davey Allison and Alan Kwicky, and then it kind of just snowballed, and it's like, what if we just did it all? And I thought if I could really commit to this, and if I can create like a series out of this, like a big series, I thought that one, I would be happy and I could, work with my designs, get creative with storytelling and go that far, and then get the support alongside with. And that was the route I was thinking. I was thinking like, what if, I could do that? But of course, with optimism, there come some challenges. One of the things that I had to face was finances. When I left college, I had around $50,000 to $60,000 in debt, in student debt. And then at the same time, I was also living with my folks still. So what I need to figure out is, how can I pay that off? And so my initial thinking was the YouTube stuff and One More Spark. And at first, it was okay. Like, I was getting some revenue, and I knew that it was going to be a long road. But it just got to a point where I don't think I could do it. And there was a point where I've almost accepted the fact that I could not make a living off of YouTube. And I know what you're thinking. I bet you're thinking, if I would have committed to One More Spark a lot longer, if I decided not to get the full-time job, which I'll talk about in a minute here, I probably would have been fine on YouTube. And that's very debatable. But I also know that I needed to make some moves. So one thing I do want to preface is that in July of 2017, that is when I decided to get a full-time job. And it was completely my decision. I chose to go ahead and get the job. So I'll just talk briefly about the job that I have. It's a very typical office job, 8 to 5, or in my case, 7:30 to 4. Very much an office job in front of a computer. And I do want to say, though, there are definitely quite a few positives that have taken away from the full-time job. And some of those positives include speaking, being able to talk to you guys more, or at least slightly more complete. Also being more confident in my speaking and being more in control of what I'm talking about. Also, my typing has gotten a lot better, and so that will, of course, help with the videos. And then finally, control. There's a lot more of a controlled schedule, and because of that, I was able to be more in control of myself and my scheduling, and again, I would not have been able to do that if I did not pick up this full-time job. So thank you for that. So I decided to go ahead with the full-time job, and again, it was my decision to do so. The other thing I was committed to was, again, One More Spark. I was committed to going all out with One More Spark and continue to go the same, energy that I had with One More Spark and the YouTube stuff. And mind you, again, this was back in 2017, while I was doing the full-time job. And I'm not gonna lie, it was good for a while. I was fine with it. I could be able to do it for, I would say, a few months. So for the span of roughly, I'm trying to think, late 2017 until middle of 2018, I was working somewhere between 50 to 60 hours a week while working on One More Spark. So it kind of leads into some of the issues that I ran into. And I thought I could do it all. I thought that I had the power and energy and capabilities to get it all done. And again, there was a couple of months where I thought I could do it. I got One More Spark 2001 done. And then I jumped into 1987, and this is where it gets a little more serious. So, to start things off, let's just talk about the struggle of 1987, and especially how I struggled, especially in the now infamous winter of 2018. So, to start things off, there were a few signs that in One More Spark 1987 itself that showed that it was not going to work out. The first one, which you'll see in the description below, is the inconsistencies between 2001 and 1987. It was going to go a route where it was like 2001 was one branch, and then 1987 was another branch. And some of the things I could have fixed, I could have jumped straight to 2002, or I should have not done 2001 and just started from 1987, or something like that. But I decided to do the thing where I jumped from 2001 to 87, 2002, etc. And that, of course, you got the two inconsistencies. Another thing was the short race lengths. I was not a fan of how short they were because I felt like the story was not able to unfold completely, which was a bit of a pain in the butt. And so because of that, I don't know. If I could have gone longer, if I did longer races, it would have taken more time to finish One More Spark, and especially with the time crunch I was in at the moment, wasn't really that good for me. And then also, number three was some of the tracks themselves was a big issue. One big thing was, I would say 2/3 through running to 1987 season, I found a better Daytona, because the first Daytona I used was Daytona 1988. There was another Daytona, Daytona 1990, that was more realistic to that time. And that bothered me a little bit. And I thought, oh, I could do that with 1988 or something like that. But no, that was something that really I was not a fan of. And I did not want to try to create some little stories like, oh, Daytona got revamped by losing bleachers or something like that. So that was dumb. And then the other issue with the tracks was there were three tracks: Dover 1991, Bristol 1991, and Darlington 1985. And there was one specific corner or in each of those tracks where if you hit it just right, instead of hitting it like a wall, you hit it and it's like a ramp, and you fly up and then you flip. And as a guy who's trying to be realistic in a illogical setting, that bothered me, and I was not a fan of that either. And so the number four off of that is, again, running more than 50 races in the span of a couple of months. That got real old real quick and also real frustrating. And then lastly, I was doing way too much in way too short of a time, pleasing too many people. That and doing that again for so long messed me up. It broke me, pretty much. And it was the biggest video or podcast that you would hear this was in the fourth podcast that I created in February of 2018. And in that one, I think I recorded it at 1 in the morning or something like that. It was very late. And you could just hear how absolutely miserable I was. I was in depression. I was absolutely depressed. Because I snapped and I could not work on the series anymore. It was just way too long, way too tedious, and it killed my creativity. And also I lost pretty much my original intent with the series and why I wanted to do it in the first place. And I was so mad that I deleted all of the clips. And that was a couple of months right there. And it was miserable. I failed. I failed myself. I failed you guys. But I stayed quiet about it because, again, as a people pleaser, I wanted to make sure you guys were happy. But it was, again, not a good time. But again, just to prove that I did go about One More Spark 1987, in the description below, you'll find the cars that I painted for that series, as well as the results from all the races, and then also the Excel spreadsheet where I calculated the point standings for everyone. And yeah, I did manually put in the points from every single race for every single driver. So yeah, that was fun. So I'm going to talk about health in a little bit here, but before I talk about that, I just want to talk about the rest of 2018. And most of that year was trying to recover, trying to, in a way, find my purpose, trying to find happiness, if you will. And so that explains when I did the Harry Potter video back in March of 2018, I was, trying to find happiness because, again, I was at a point where in 2003, me creating stuff, and even NASCAR, because the beginning of 2018 was not a good year, or it was not a good moment, if you will. And I was frustrated with it, and I did not like myself. I did not like the situation I was in, and I especially do not like winter. So that's a little teaser to part 3, but I do not like winter at all. Yeah, so again, I was on the pursuit of trying to find happiness, trying to recover. And like I did try to create some, like the shorts that I made, which I want to add. I could not believe the response I got from those videos. Because again, I just made those in a week. I did not put much really thought or even effort into them, but I got so much feedback from that it was exciting and terrifying at the same time. And so, yeah, and I was still active and I still, was on the podcast a couple of times and I did still reach out to people and I still worked. But, like, even though I am still me, I also did not feel like myself. And then this transitions over then to health. My health was probably at its worst point, I would say, both physically and mentally. And I would even add spiritually as well. First off, mental fog. I could not believe how much of a mental fog I was in. And that did not help my creative process at all, because not just was I not able to kind of think, logically like ahead with other years and One More Spark, it was hard for me just to think, period. And it was like, I was freaking out. I was thinking like, is this dementia? Am I losing memory? Like, what was happening? I don't know. It scared me. It really, really scared me. And then also too, just looking at my notes, another thing too was I ate with my feelings. I only ate what made me happy. I did not care about veggies because, again, I was in a stressful area and it's like, oh, veggies taste gross. Let's not eat those. Let's have pizza and burgers and chicken. That stuff's good for you, right? Well, I ended up gaining 20 pounds over the winter of 2018. And I've been trying, and I'm not going to lie, I've been struggling to lose that weight. So that's been a struggle for sure, trying to deal with the weight. And then also, I was not getting enough sleep either. Because again, every night in winter, I would probably go to bed sometime around 11 to 12. And I was either on the screen or on my phone all the time. And then I'd be awake at 6 o'clock. And so that also drove me insane. And it's one of those things where it's like, it took me till now or recently to really notice that was happening. But because when you're in the moment, like, you don't know. And I wish someone would have told me before. But I do want to give a positive spin on this, though. I do want to give a shout out to Mind Pump Media, and specifically their podcasts. Again, another upside to my job is that I'm able to listen to podcasts, and I listen to Mind Pump, and they don't know, but they have helped me tremendously. They helped me with working out and making sure I do work out in a more, this is kind of weird. Like, it helped me work out in a more effective way. Because again, I mentioned in my first video that again, I'm an athlete. I sprinted for so many years, I did football for so many years, and like I'm still like working out, but I'm not like putting up the numbers that I was back in high school and college. And then they also kind of helped me lean toward, eating my veggies. And so more now, I'm definitely eating my broccoli, my peas, and my spinach. I am also eating more brain foods like salmon and blueberries and broccoli, as I said before. And then also sleep. And along with sleep, being more in control of social media and being in front of a screen. Because I try to make sure, and sometimes it's hard to do this, I try to make sure to give myself an hour before I go to sleep, make sure I don't have any technology on, and just have time for myself, just to think, contemplate, and focus. And again, I've been making constant steps so that I can take control. And because I said recently in a tweet that I have not felt so creatively confident in a long time. And that is true. That is very true. But there are some more roadblocks that I need to talk about first before we get to that point. Editing Griff here. So this is a roadblock technically, but this is also another health part I forgot to mention in the video, and that is caffeine. In the winter of 2018, I had, on average, 3 servings of caffeine every single day. 1 serving in the morning after I wake up, 1 serving while at work, and then I take a pre-workout before I work out. My strong advice to you is to make absolute sure that you get your proper amount of sleep, even if it means going to bed earlier than you want to. If you get sleep, then you don't need caffeine, which is a drug, to help you stay awake. I have recently cut caffeine entirely from my diet, and even though it does feel odd, it also feels pretty good too. So that's all on that. Back to the video. So now let's jump ahead and let's talk about the 2018 Summer Showdown. So what was the spark to that was the North Carolina trip. I drove down there in the middle of May, got some North Carolina culture, went to my first ever cup race, got with my best friend Isaac, went to the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and we had a heck of a good time. And it kind of gave me the spark to create something again in the NASCAR field. And that was the 2018 Summer Showdown. And it was fun at first. The thing I probably said the thing that I loved doing the most was painting the cars. I ended up painting like 54 cars, I think it was. I enjoyed that, and I love painting those cars. That's the part, and I said before in my first part that that's the part I love about NASCAR is the designs. So I did enjoy that. Unfortunately, I did begin to fall, and I did fall into some of the traps that I fell in One More Spark 1987. Big thing was, again, I was working on this whole project while I still was working a full-time job. And again, this was all my decision. And so again, I made sure to give myself more time, more control, and to make sure I did not burn myself out. I still did in December, but I was able to get around and I was able to finish the Summer Showdown. And there was also a new issue that did not show up in One More Spark 1987 that did show up in the Summer Showdown. You remember my laptop that I purchased in 2012? Well, it decided to show me its age at the Summer Showdown. And so programs started to crash more frequently, including Camera Control Master, Photoshop, and Sony Vegas Pro. And it was one of those deals where I decided, you know what, I am going to get a new laptop after this, and I'm going to make sure I end with a bang with this new laptop. And so that's a reason why I went as all out with the Summer Showdown as possible, is to give a nice big send-off to my old laptop, which has helped me get to where I'm at now. And so through the struggle, and again, the Summer Showdown was supposed to be done in September, but because of, again, working so much and getting so much that needed to be done with the Summer Showdown, it ended up being pushed to February, as you all know. And once that race was premiered, I was relieved. I was relieved that it was over, it was done, and I did not have to work on that project again. And as I said, it just took long because so much racing had to be done, so much had to be recorded in Camera Control Master, so many graphics, so many audio bits. Just a lot of time was spent on it. I would say it was worth it for sure, but I also wished I could have done a little more, or I would have been more efficient with my time management. So let's go ahead and let's jump, and we're going to wrap up this video here. Let's talk about 2019 and Camera Control Master. So if you guys have followed me, 2019 has been a very interesting year, to say the least. From my grandmother's passing, to my little brother becoming a Marine, to getting a new job in the same field, I want to add, to paying off some student loans. I paid off a student loan in 2017. I paid off another one in 2018. And actually, at the end of June, I plan to pay off a third one. So, yeah, that is exciting. But the other things I did too was I purchased a laptop, a new brand laptop, and that was kind of when I noticed that times were beginning to change. Because I'm going to say it up front, the most recent short that I made, Analyzing the Big One 5, was actually my most frustrating video I've ever made. And it had nothing to do with the editing programs, like Adobe Premiere. I've had experience with it in the past, and so I was able to learn and catch on pretty quickly. No, it was Camera Control Master. It does not like Windows 10. And again, I was able to get enough stuff complete on Windows 10 to make it like somewhat work. But the problem is, especially as a creative and someone who was invested so much in Camera Control Master, it crashes so randomly and so frequently at the same time. And as a creative person, you get into that creative flow, right? You can go and get your creative stuff done and you can hit 1, 2, 3, 4, no problem. But if something crashes or something freezes or something that you do not plan for comes your way, totally messes up the whole process. And so that was another project where on the outside and on paper did not seem like it would take long to make. It took really long to make. And that was kind of the point where I had to make the hard decision of calling it quits with the Enter 2003 videos. Because there's no way I could have continued with Camera Control Master in that way. And actually, I've just recently uninstalled Camera Control Master on the computer. Because very simply, it's just not worth it. And I want to preface this. I would have loved to continue working on these videos. I would have loved to continue on going down the same direction. But so many things happened in the last 2 years, and I also believe that everything does happen for a reason. And I do want to preface this. I still love NASCAR, and I love what's going on with them in 2019 so far. And I still love Enter 2003. I still have the game on my computer, and I still have Fraps, so if I want to record some stuff, I could still do that. But I do not have any plans on making the content that has got me recognized for this time. And again, this was a really tough decision, and it's something where it's like, I knew that it was going to be a hard talk, and this is not entirely a comfortable conversation that I wanted to have, but it also needs to happen. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I've let you guys down. I hate myself for it, and I know that some people left me, and I completely understand. So, yeah, that, and so everything I've explained, it's true, and I kept it all to myself. The depression, the anxiety, the lack of communication, it wasn't good, and I apologize for that. So let's get a little positive here. Let's get a little happy. So I mentioned before that health has definitely been on the upswing this year, and it is definitely true that I have been very creatively optimistic, which is 100% true. But the issue is, I know you guys want me to create the same content, and I'm just at a point where I'm sick of it. And I'm sick of doing the same routine every single time. And I just felt like I was not able to get creatively free. And I feel like with camera control messing up and the oldness of the laptop and just the experience I've had, I feel like is a sign of change. It's time for me to reinvent myself. It's time for me to go back to day one. And it's time for me to really get a good start on where I want to go as a career in my life. It isn't necessarily going to be YouTube, but I'm going to still be on YouTube. I'm still going to be on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And so, again, I'm not going to talk too much about that here and now because that is part 3. And I just want to get creative. And I still want to create something fun, create something interesting, and I want to continue to play the game of what if and theories. So, yeah, I hope that answers some of your guys' questions. I hope that gives clarity to what's been going on. It has been a very difficult ride these past 2 years, but it's been my decision, and I'm sticking to it, especially with these upcoming decisions. So, to wrap it up here, the next part is going to be talking about the future. What's ahead for me? What's next for me? And we're going to go from there. So, with that being said, if you guys again have any questions, comments, concerns, and go ahead and post that in the comments section. Otherwise, if you guys have any messages, if you want to talk to me directly, my DMs are open on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And my email is griff88fan@gmail.com. So, I believe that's all I wanted to say. I feel like there's probably something I might have missed. I might, add that in the edits. But we'll see. So, I think I'm going to go ahead and end that here. Thank you guys so much for watching all these years. If you do plan to stick around, thank you very much. And the future is going to be bright, guys. I promise. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. And this is Griffin Spear saying so long until next time.